have thought that just by farting out oxygen and sucking up carbon dioxide, you can cause an ice age and you can kill almost everything else? Yo, mga kabayo, what's up, and welcome to Inay. Thank you, our time and space to learn life lessons from lessons about life. The Earth may be in the prime location in the solar system to be able to support life. Sometime in its distant past, it just didn't. And so that must mean that the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere look drastically different from the way they do now. And that's what we are going to look at today. Oh my god, you telling me I am going to stay here with you in this room for 4.6 billion years? I do not have time for that. That is why we have the geologic timescale. So the geologic timescale, or the GTS, describes very large periods or chunks of time in the Earth's history. It also provides time estimates of key events that happen to the Earth or on the Earth based on the rock layers that are formed on the Earth's crust, the fossils that are embedded on these rocks, or also based on the age through radiocarbon dating and other similar methods. From this point forward, we will be using the GTS as we look back into the Earth's history. So the Earth looked like hell. It was super hot, the surface was barren, it was bombarded by meteors, the crust was fairly thinner than it is now, so that means it easily cracked, and so lava would come spewing forth. No liquid water on the surface. Gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and hydrogen sulfide were being released into the atmosphere. That means amoy utot yung Earth. There was no life, but the ingredients for life were there. It was just very inhospitable back then. It literally happened. Hell on Earth. Or hell is Earth. Earth was hell. Now, if you thought things couldn't get any worse, there was actually a huge planet-sized thing called Theia that collided with the Earth. What happened was that very thin shred of the crust that the Earth had, it melted again. And so it became very molten once again because of the intense heat and pressure brought about by that collision. The good thing that came about it, though, is that all that debris that was flung out from the collision eventually accreted and became our moon. During this time was when the Earth really began to cool, so much so that liquid water was now allowed to exist. So we have the energy from the sun. We now have the ingredients locked in the Earth. And now we have liquid water. Is life possible? Yes, of course it is. Life back then was nowhere near as complex as today's living species. It was also around the time of the Archean eon that the supercontinent Kenorland was formed. However, life on land was mats of, microorganisms. Just slimy mats on the surface. I mentioned the atmosphere was mostly carbon dioxide and methane. There wasn't really a lot going on during that time. The most that you could get would be like microorganisms that sort of just ate each other. All of that was about to change when a certain group of microorganisms learned how to use the power of the sun and carbon dioxide in a process called photosynthesis to produce their own sugars.
Give me the power of the sun so I can rule the world.
That was cyanobacteria. All of that oxygen that they pumped out into the atmosphere killed almost every other thing. It was too toxic for other organisms that weren't used to so much oxygen. For the organisms that did survive, however, it was hallelujah, because they were able to move on into the next eon, which we call the Proterozoic eon. It was during the Proterozoic eon that we find the first evidence of eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are what we call organisms whose cells have a nucleus bound by a nuclear membrane. So that includes us.
You talking to me?
That means our very first ancestors started to appear during the Proterozoic eon. More land also started to pop up and form supercontinents such as Nuna/Columbia, Rodinia, Pannotia, and Gondwana. Despite the appearance of these supercontinents, life was still mostly in the water. The Phanerozoic eon is when life really diversified, started to pick up and flourish. This is our eon. This is the eon where we are in right now. It is the eon of visible life. During this time, landmasses such as Laurasia, Gondwana, and Pangaea started to come up. See, 4.6 billion years in just a few minutes, because we only really highlighted the most important parts, maybe. But now that we have established that the Earth looked nothing like it does today, the next question is, why? During the Hadean Eon, there wasn't any liquid water, obviously because the Earth was too hot. Just water would just vaporize. When we go to the Archean Eon, you'll see that about most of the Earth was covered in water. Well, that's because the Earth cooled enough such that liquid water could exist. Now, when land finally formed on Earth, why were there so many supercontinents? When the crust finally did cool, it didn't form like one whole solid sheet covering the mantle. Instead, it's actually broken up into fragments that we call plates. Beneath these plates is molten lava that constantly rises and sinks thanks to the heat generated by the Earth's core. And you can think of the plates, the plates of the crust as rafts floating on this continuously churning mantle. Now, because the convection in the mantle does not go in one direction, where the plate happens to be sitting, then there will be places where some plates will collide. Say if you have lava coming this way, then the plates that are there, they sort of hit each other. And there are some places where if the lava is traveling this way, then there are plates there, then they could be drifting apart. Where they collide, one of the heavier plates sinking to the bottom, that means that they're going to melt back into the mantle, and all the rocks that were there and all the waste products that were there, they're going to be consumed back into the fiery furnace of the Earth, where they will drift apart. That's where you have rifts. If it drifts far enough that lava can actually exit, that molten lava will come up, and the rapid drop in temperature will turn the molten lava into these rocks that will now be part of the rock cycle. As for the atmosphere, although it's not something that we can readily see, we do know that it has changed considerably throughout the Earth's history. Sometimes the carbon dioxide levels were so high, 200 times higher than right now, and then there were times when oxygen levels were so high. And that's all thanks to both the geophysical processes that happen on the Earth, like for example, if there are fissures that release gases or hydrothermal vents that release gases into the atmosphere, then that's from the Earth. And then there are also biochemical processes, like the cyanobacteria that we said that rule the Earth by farting everyone to death. One of the recurring patterns that we have seen so far in the observable universe is that everything is always constantly moving and changing. You know how funny it is that we hear people say, you know, they're like, oh, don't change, you know, I love you just the way you are. Or even they say, if you have to change for the better. We do see how one character changes in the sense that they become happier, they live fuller, freer lives, and then the other people around them think that, oh my god, you've changed. That didn't sound like they were pleased. They sounded like they didn't approve of that kind of change. This really reveals a lot about our ego. What we value as change for the better almost often is a change that benefits us. We don't want people to change, or if we want people to change, we want them to change for the better. It's not necessarily what's better for them, but it's almost often what's better for us. Okay, what if we gave the Earth and the solar system the same advice? Before the Earth became the Earth we know and love today, it has gone through a lot. There was a time when she was so hot, but she smelled like shit. And now she's a lot cooler and is home to about 8.7 million species of life. For many people, that's kind of like a happy ending to the Earth story. Except that, of course, we do know scientifically that once the star dies, the sun is a star, by the way, for those who are not quite sure, all the planets, you know, in that star system will just gone. And what kind of change is that now? Is that a change for the better, or is that change for the worse? The universe doesn't have that issue, because for the universe, it just changes, period. All change is necessary. What did it take for you and for me to be alive right now? A lot of living organisms have had to die to keep us alive. That's a game changer for them, because they were alive maybe a few days ago, and then now they're dead because we ate them. For us, that's like, oh, it's a good change. We're eating healthy food, we're eating vegetables. But what about the point of view of the plant or the point of view of the animal? Do you think that's good change for them or that's bad change? Who's to say? That's why there really is no such thing as good or bad. There just is change. O paano naman kayo mga kabayo? What life lessons have you learned today? Leave it all in the comments below. And you guys may also have noticed that a few characters of the alternate Beanieverse have appeared. They've made cameo appearances in previous episodes. You've seen Lucky Bee.
I don't know law of conservation of money.
Baby.
Oh my god, so init.
And Enerbee. Ready! Hopefully we can devote some episodes where they'll be hosting the show as well. If there's anything you'd like to learn, I'll try my best to explain it for you, but of course we do know that Mother Nature is the teacher. If you would like to know more about the details of the Earth's history, you can learn more through PBS Eons. I'm gonna leave a few links or a few videos right here that you could check out. Susunod na ulit, kita-kits mga bagits, and I thank you!